What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? All new guests, never been on the show, but I've met all of them before, or at least interacted with them all before in various capacities. So very happy to have them all on. As always, this is live. Anything can happen, so I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
If you haven't already, like, subscribe, share, all those things, super important. They really do help the show. Gets it in front of more eyeballs. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
All right, before we bring in our guests, let's take a look at where we are in the market really quick. This is the bitbo.io dashboard. We're sitting at $39,540 some odd dollars per coin. I personally blame Hodlonaut for tweeting that we'll never see Bitcoin below 40K again, and we will be doomed to bounce back below it until he stops tweeting that shit. So let him know. You can now pick up for a single US dollar. You can grab yourself 2,530 sats. 90.57% of all Bitcoin have been mined. And in terms of fees, up a little bit, 10 sats per byte for next block. If you're willing to wait an hour, 3 sats per byte will do you. Not bad. Shout out to sponsors of the show, Shakepay.com. If you're in Canada, super easy way to stack sats with your fiat. E-transfers in and out, no deposit or withdrawal fees, thin spread. And if you use the link down below, after your first $100 purchase, they'll give you $30 for free. You get the same deal if you refer your friends and family, and you can shake your phone every single day for free sats. Not bad. I lost my streak while I was in Miami, unfortunately. Building it back over 200 sats a day, but we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. LEDN.io, you can use your Bitcoin for a ton of different things. In particular, if you're in a pinch and you need dollars and you don't want to sell your Bitcoin, you can use their Bitcoin-backed loans. You can deposit Bitcoin, get dollars to your bank account within 24 hours. When you pay back those dollars, you get back the same number of sats. Of course, they've got their savings accounts, their B2X offering. They're dabbling in Bitcoin mortgages now. So keep an eye out for that. Some new stuff there. Bitrefill. This helps me live on Bitcoin personally. I'm sure it helps a bunch of you as well. You can buy any gift card your little heart desires with Bitcoin, both on-chain and via Lightning Network. You earn sats back as you shop, and if you'd like some more sats, they do have a referral program to earn some as well. Keystone, one of my faves, one of my hardware wallets that gets regularly used, 100% air-gapped, never plug it into anything internet connected. Everything is offline via QR code, and keeps the keys to your money safe and away from internet connections. Definitely upgrade to the Bitcoin-only firmware, and it works great with things like Blue Wallet, Sparrow, Spectrum, awesome in a multi-sig. So check it out. And finally, if you're backing up any important Bitcoin wallet, steel is the way to go. Paper maybe doesn't cut it. BillFodl over at Privacy Pros got you covered there. Super easy to use. And yeah, this is how I back up my wallets. With that, enough of my rambling. I got to get these guys in here. So welcome to Econoalchemist, Neil Jacobs. Chris, I hope I don't butcher your last name, Alaimo?
Yep, that's right.
There we go. Okay, awesome. Welcome, gentlemen. All first-time guests to the show. Let's do a quick round of intros. Econo, can you let people know who you are and what you do?
Hey, I'm Econoalchemist. I create content related to Bitcoin self-custody and using Bitcoin in a censorship-resistant way. And I do a lot of home mining content as well. I am a content contributor to Bitcoin Magazine, and I'm an affiliate with Upstream Data.
Nice. Ooh, that CV there is pretty thick. I enjoy it. Chris, welcome. Can you let people know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Chris Alaimo. I work for Bitcoin Magazine. I am the Twitch project manager as well as the live stream producer for Bitcoin Magazine Live. I also helped run the live stream for the conference. So anyone that was remote, they saw that that was kind of me in the background and helped, yeah, obviously put on the conference. So.
How much of a heart attack did you have when you guys got canceled at midnight?
Yeah, so I was exhausted that night and I fell asleep at like 11 p.m. and I woke up at 3 a.m. in a panic to like a bunch of missed calls from like Q and CK. And the channel was already restored by then, but I did not sleep well the rest of the night after waking up to all the missed calls.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I mean, it worked out, but holy shit, dude. Neil, finally, tell people who you are, what you do.
So I do a lot of things. I have a podcast, Inside Bitcoin, with Joe Carlasari. I do some contract work for Swan, running clubhouse rooms. I'm on the board of directors of the SAT Center. And a new thing I started, a new Bitcoin merch and apparel company called FOMO21.com. Check it out. If anyone's listening right now, use the code BTC Sessions. You'll get 15% off the next week site-wide. So go for it. FOMO21.com.
Awesome. Maybe I'll have to grab some swag from there too. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate your time in coming. Again, anybody watching who is unfamiliar, this is Why Are We Bullish? Really simple premise. We go by the 3 R's. Somebody's going to drop a reason why they're feeling bullish. Then we're going to riff on that reason. And then finally, we will rotate to the next person until we all get a turn. Really easy. I will be getting us started today. And I've got a reason why I'm feeling bullish. I want to pull up something really quick. This just dropped earlier today, actually. So, I mean, I'm sure a number of people are familiar with the fact that Ukraine, you know, there was a lot of Bitcoin donations spilling into Ukraine with everything that's been going on. And, you know, they were more than happy to accept those donations and use that as a conduit to get, you know, get money into the country to help with things. However, Ukraine's central bank is banning Bitcoin purchases made with the local currency to prevent capital from fleeing the war-ravaged country. So effectively, they're saying Bitcoin for me, but not for thee. If you're an individual, you're effectively capped at how much you can buy in Bitcoin per month. They don't want you. If you're leaving, they're basically saying that your assets are stuck here. So this is, I mean, I guess government's going to government. And part of me, my initial reaction was central banks can set, you know, set and enact legislation. You know, that was a curious thought to me, although I guess there goes the facade that central banks are separate entities from the actual government. But in the end, the thing that excited me was that there's already just so many solutions that make this move totally irrelevant. And I tweeted them out as well. Like, you know, if you're in Ukraine, here's 3 immediate solutions that you can use. RoboSats, one I just learned about and started using and just was created in the past couple of months here, over Tor, all done via the Lightning Network. And you basically, again, peer-to-peer and a ton of different ways that you can pay people. I did demos not only with like bank transfers within Canada, but with like Amazon gift cards and tons of other payment rails. And so in that instance, there's nothing denoting that whatever transfer of funds and however it was used, whether it be a gift card or whether it be an actual bank transfer or whatever it is, there's no actual trace that it was linked to an exchange for Bitcoin. And so this is an easy off ramp that can be enacted immediately. And then, you know, there's no cap on that. There might be individual trade size caps, but you can get around that. And I also said, you know, BISC, another great resource for people to peer-to-peer to get Bitcoin. And then HODL is another example. And there's more out there. So I guess the reason why I'm bullish is that these types of bans, even in the current state where on a Western front, we don't have to deal with this kind of shit yet, there's already solutions. And I think there's going to continue to be more and better solutions as time goes on. So I'm just bullish because Bitcoin's kind of like water. It just finds the path of least resistance and will go there. And so, the Ukrainian central bank becomes a path of resistance and Bitcoin just flows around it. So I'll open it up to you guys. Were you guys aware, or did you see this story drop today? And did you have any initial thoughts? Anybody can jump in, by the way.
Yeah, I guess I'll start off. I saw it, and initially I'm like, have fun staying poor, Ukraine. But then I have friends who have family there. It's like a really shitty situation. So then I started feeling like bad. But then I started feeling bullish about it because I'm like, it must be material enough that the central bank thought it was worth saying. Like, people are selling their local currency for Bitcoin. It in a big way, or else they wouldn't even care. So to me, that's bullish. It sucks for the people there, but like you said, you tweeted out all these ways to kind of navigate around that, a hodl, BISC, etc. So.
Yeah, I think all governments are trending toward tyranny, and the more they try to like clamp down on the methods that people are finding economic freedom to transact peer to peer, like those methods are just going to keep growing and keep developing, and people are going to keep finding ways to route around them, like you said. And yeah, I think that is very bullish.
Yeah, we talked about this on Bitcoin Magazine Live, and it's funny. They're just trying capital controls. It's like rules for thee, but not for me. They're willing to accept donations in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. I don't need to name them here, but they're trying to beef up their war effort by doing so. But then they restrict their citizens. I have a funny quick bit if you want about RoboSats and stuff. So I got gift cards for my birthday a couple months ago. And I hit up Matt Odell like, hey, what should I use for non-KYC for gift cards? I tried BISC, tried hodl. I was getting frustrated with them. It wasn't working out. So he's like, oh, try RoboSats. Little did I know, like, RoboSats had only started when I used it like 16 hours ago. So I was quite literally one of the first people to do it. And this ties into you, Ben. So I was watching your video recently that came out about RoboSats. When I first used it, you know how like you create a NIM and you basically have to copy it, and I put it in a separate notepad. Anyway, I gave a gift card. The person was trying to use it for Amazon. Amazon's very picky with gift cards if it's not an Amazon gift card. So I kept seeing the charges. Like I saw the electronic charges, like 10 cents, but failed. Like he's saying, oh, it's not working. Long story short, my Tor browser locks up and I go to copy and paste the NIM back in. The copy and paste function was not programmed properly when I was first using it 16 hours in. So I hop on the Telegram chat with like all like the devs, like, oh yeah, we forgot to program it right. If you don't copy and paste it yourself, it's not going to work. I'm like, well, guys, like I'm watching as like he's using the transactions. Luckily, as it was breaking down, he said, oh, I'm going to try Apple. I saw the whole payment that he bought something from Apple, and then the sats were released to me. So I didn't get, I literally thought I got the rug pulled out for me, like using it in the first like 16 hours RoboSats was live. And then I'm like, Odell, you didn't tell me this like just dropped today. And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. You're like one of the first people to use it. Congrats on being an open source like contributor, because I messaged the devs and they're like, yeah, we're going to fix it. I'm like, okay.
I appreciate your near sacrifice for the good of the many. That it seemed quite smooth when I used it. I think that your near loss contributed to that smooth experience that I had. So thank you.
You're welcome. I literally messaged Adele. I'm like, oh, it works for Ben when he used the copy paste function. So I guess my contribution was good.
Work like a charm. Yeah, they should give you some credit there. Yeah, no, I've got to say, RoboSats was just such a pleasant surprise because there's trade-offs with a lot of these things, like hodl. You can get like eBay style like ratings and stuff like that, so that you see how reliable a certain person is to deal with, and so on and so forth. But then there's also a record of you having traded like on that platform, so that's a potential that somebody could see that down the line. But in terms of like trading with individuals, it's still peer-to-peer. You're not having to upload all your KYC, everything there. BISC, it's definitely a learning curve. Like you don't download it and you click and go. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But then like RoboSats, the actual flow to it was quite impressively simple to me. And I think like I really valued that, because like, other than, you know, if you're getting a brand newcomer, like say somebody in Ukraine, it's like, I need to get some Bitcoin, I need to do it quick. They don't need to really be an expert. They need to get Tor, and then they just need to go to the URL, and then once you're there, like, you know, you could have something like Moon Wallet and have a, you know, a Lightning wallet accessible to you that you don't really have to understand specifically what's going on. The only hurdle, which is fine because it prevents spam, is you do have to have a small amount of Bitcoin, to like 1,000 sats or something to put up, so to take an offer or to post an offer, just to prevent spam offers and spoofing and all that kind of stuff. But like, the actual trade function of it is super simple. Putting up your own offer is super simple. Like, I thought it was excellent, and for such a young new thing, I've got to say, I'm bullish on non-KYC sats through methods like this, and seeing the progression of how much simpler these solutions will get over time. So yeah, kudos to them. And I mean, again, kudos to the BISC team, kudos to HODL HODL, kudos to anybody that enables individuals to get their hands on sats without KYC. So I think it's a much needed thing. And I don't know, where do you guys see this stuff going? Like, what do you think are the hurdles that need to be cleared to make more people go this kind of route?
Unfortunately, I think a lot of it will come down to like reactionary realization that they have a need for it. You know, like I think the Canadian trucker convoy was a good example that opened the eyes of a lot of people as to like how quickly your normal day-to-day activities can suddenly become criminal activities, and the kinds of financial implications that can have on you, how quickly you can be like shut out from your basic financial services, how quickly it can become impossible for you to pay your mortgage or put food on the table. And so, you know, I think the more we see events like that happen and play out, and like, you know, kind of like I was saying, the more these governments trend toward tyranny and keep infringing and encroaching on the rights of individuals to transact peer-to-peer, the more people are going to wake up to some of these other tools and these peer-to-peer platforms and these like out-of-band payments they can make that don't link their identity to like a legacy system transaction that is linked to Bitcoin.
You're right, how quickly things can change. Like, I was freaking out thinking, and I'm basically living on a Bitcoin standard. Like, I have a bank account, I have a credit card, but like I I don't keep my money in dollars, let alone the Canadian moose shekel up here. But at the same time, I'm then starting to think like, okay, well, what do I rely on that stuff for, and how much of a pain in the ass is this going to be to navigate if all my shit gets shut down? And I'm somebody that's already on a Bitcoin standard, and I'm like, fuck, my life is going to be a lot harder right now if this happens to me, let alone somebody who's just completely entrenched in legacy finance and has no out and doesn't understand Bitcoin whatsoever. That's a death knell for them.
Yeah, and even expanding on that, like, we don't even have to go as far as the Canadian truckers. We can go to Ukraine and Russia, and either side that you fall on right now, Russians are getting sanctioned by the US and the rest of the world, and Ukrainians, their own government says they want to help their people. And just the article that Ben pulled up, you know, they're putting capital controls. I know in the article that was written, I believe Namcios of Bitcoin Magazine wrote it, but he was saying in there, I guess foreign currencies up to 3,900 American dollars equivalent, you can use it, but they're blocking their own currency. So that just says, you know, they really don't want to help their own citizens. And it's pitiful. It's a shame. It's horrible. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know this is a bit of a segue, but also in the realm of privacy is non-KYC sats. We did have a quick question, and maybe I'll put it to Econo here. How important do you think it is to CoinJoin KYC Bitcoin if you have it?
Well, I think it's extremely important because that's the only way you're going to break those deterministic links that irrevocably connect you to that on-chain information. So if you don't coin join your KYC funds, then the exchange you bought them from is going to be able to, and you should just assume that they are tracking everything you do with those funds. And so they're going to use a number of on-chain heuristics that make certain assumptions about the ownership of the inputs and outputs of the transactions. And when you start looking at these graphs on a block explorer, like it's really not that difficult to track somebody on chain. So if you value privacy, or if you value being able to transact without having to run into someone's permission, well, maintaining your anonymity online is one way to ensure that they're not going to find some off-chain information to you
Nope.
to spend your Bitcoin on.
Yeah.
But there is kind of a caveat there. I think if we're going to be honest about it, we'll have to recognize that there are certain on-off ramps that have taken like aggressive stances toward privacy tools. And so there have been instances where like BottlePay had a Whirlpool output come onto their platform and they flagged it, right? Just because it was related to a CoinJoin.
I wonder how onerous can people, like, because I mean there's things like Ricochet where you have multiple hops before it lands in a destination address. Like it then becomes just a game of cat and mouse of how onerous and how far back are they willing to look on the chain. And I mean, if it gets to a certain point where it's like, if you look far enough back on the Bitcoin blockchain, a certain number of hops, then you're more or less tainting a large percentage of the entire base of the entire monetary base, and saying, oh, we're not willing to accept 20% of existing Bitcoin because it was linked to something at some point in its history. If you had to do that with $20 bills, I mean, you'd have a lot of $20 bills you had to set fire to. But
yeah, and it's like a totally arbitrary set of rules that they apply to define taint, and it varies from company to company. And there's just no like legal clarity that says all money transmitters have to abide by these rules. And I think it's kind of a good thing we don't have that legal clarity. But unfortunately, what you see are these companies that try to like proactively go above and beyond their current set of regulations. And so you see them doing funny things like blocking coin joins when there's really no legal grounds for them to do it. They're just doing it because I think they're trying to build regulatory moats around their business and get an edge over their competitors. And unfortunately that puts the end user at a disadvantage. It just hurts the people trying to use the services.
Yeah. Now, before we start rotating and everything, I'm going to bring up one other thing, just in the realm of, since we kind of went down the no KYC, down the CoinJoin route. Another privacy aspect that Cortic in the chat brings up is dust transactions, where somebody sends a small number of sats to an address that you are known to own. And if you're not privy to that and you don't have settings within your wallets to prevent stuff like this or segregate those funds, that tiny amount of Bitcoin can be used to kind of track what you do from then on in, because it combines with some of your other sats. And it's basically like an ink bomb in your Bitcoin wallet. And then anything that it touches, that ink will rub off and kind of have an implication that it's owned by you. So I mean, what wallets out there right now have, like, does every wallet, or do a lot of wallets have like dust limits and things like that, or is that still a pretty niche thing in terms of like you can segregate dust and certain? I know like Samurai does that. I think Sparrow, maybe, I don't know.
I know for sure because I've been the victim of a dust attack. And it was in my Samurai wallet. So I know for sure Samurai wallet like has ways to handle dust built into the application.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it happen in any of my other wallets, so I don't really have that experience like with Sparrow or some of the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's,
like my thought with dust is like if you get dust in your wallet, like you want to break that common input ownership heuristic, and you can do that by making collaborative transactions. And then any external observer, someone tracking the dust, for example, isn't going to be able to know which of those outputs the dust is part of at
yeah.
this point, right? So, I think Samurai Wallet is just miles ahead when it comes to handling situations like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. And also it's important to, if you're worried about stuff like this, it's important to have wallets where you can actually see your individual UTXOs. And so like, I mean, might be getting a little too technical here for some that are watching, but basically what I mean by that is every time you receive Bitcoin into your wallet, it's not like you just have a singular balance. It's kind of more like if you had a physical wallet and you received a $20 bill and a $10 bill. Those amounts are separate within your wallet. But then when you go to spend them in tandem, it's kind of more like you're creating new bills from them. So if you wanted to spend $25 out of that 30 that you had, you're effectively destroying the original bills and creating a $25 bill and a $5 bill. So they do get combined through that action. But yeah, if somebody sends you a small amount of Bitcoin to an address that you apparently own, as you go to spend that in tandem with others, then it can kind of link to what you own. And so if you are dealing with a wallet that just shows a singular balance and doesn't give you any further insight, that's a problem. But if you're dealing with a wallet where you see like, oh, I just got, 100 sats, you'll be like, what the hell is this? I'm not going to touch that. Or you'll take some evasive action to make sure that people aren't tracking what you're doing. So, yeah. And there's other solutions. Like there's there's a bit of a kerfuffle on Twitter the other day, but I was talking about Panems, and Panem is basically a way of having a link between you and another individual, and that individual can independently create a receiving address for you to send you funds without you having to publicly post that in a forum. So you could post a NIM, like a username is maybe perhaps a term that might be familiar to people, rather than a NIM. But basically, it's a publicly identifiable way for somebody to connect with you and send you money without saying, here's an address. So there are ways around preventing this kind of stuff. And I am bullish on the trajectory for Bitcoin privacy, because I feel like privacy became a huge issue to a lot of people this year in particular, and we already have all of these tools. And I'd like to liken it to scaling in 2017. It was top of mind for everybody. It was like, we have to do this or Bitcoin is screwed. And look at everything that has come out of it since. Look how many, we did get SegWit. We got the Lightning Network, which did not exist at the time. If you choose to use them, there are side chains, there's other options there, but there's been so much movement in scaling when really no tools were available then. Think 5 years out from now, when we already have a ton of privacy tools at our fingertips right now, but privacy has just become kind of like front and center as one of the big issues in Bitcoin. I can only imagine the incredible tools that we're going to have in 5 years. So yeah, super bullish on that. I'm going to round out this topic though, and we'll get a rotation in here. Again, everybody in the chat, thank you for continuing to be here, and keep those messages coming. I'll try and pull them up as I see them. But Econo, you are actually up next for your reason for being bullish. So I'm going to let you have a little rant. What are you excited about this week?
Dude, I'm going to go with home mining. It's one of my favorite subjects, and I've just been completely obsessed with it for like the last year and a year and a half. You know, I'm excited about or bullish on home mining because it solves problems for people. You know, if you don't want to use KYC services because of the risks of the custodian shutting you out of your account, or the risk of the custodian being the victim of a data breach that then leaks your personal information to God knows where. You know, you can use mining as a way to acquire Bitcoin without having to provide anyone KYC information. And, you know, essentially what you're doing is you're taking your fiat money and paying your electricity bill, which is returning sats to you in return for that through the miner. So I just think for anyone who, you know, is concerned about KYC, I think mining at home is a great way to come up with that revenue stream where you don't have to give information to anybody, and you know, you don't have to interact in any trades with anybody to do that. You can just get your mining rewards deposited. So that's the primary reason I'm bullish on it, you know, and like from there, over the course of the last year, the narrative used to be that you can't mine at home. You can't compete with the big miners. Your electricity is too expensive. You'd be better off just buying at an exchange. And those narratives have really been destroyed over the last year. And there's just been this like renaissance in people sharing the ways that they've incorporated miners into their home, the problems that they face, the solutions that they came up with. And now we're getting to this point where people are like, you know, they're coming up with ways to integrate the miner into their central air system, into their like clothes dryer. They're using them to like dry food like beef jerky or mushrooms. And it's like, dude, now we're starting to see people like, not only are they getting non-KYC Bitcoin and like participating in self-custody by default, but now they're like starting to figure out ways to like use the byproducts of the miner, like the heat, to offset other energy costs like natural gas, or, you know, just to do other creative things. So I just think that that is extremely bullish because, man, it's like an avalanche that can't be stopped at this point.
I love that. This has been on my radar for a little bit. I feel like mining is my blind spot, right? Like that's the thing that I have the least experience. It's like I'd be going in like a total noob, trying to figure it out bit by bit. So that's kind of a goal of mine this year to, okay, how do you get hardware? How do you, you know, get set up in a way that isn't blasting out your eardrums? You know, like just whatever solutions you come up with, making sure that it's makes economic sense. Like in the, okay, so for example, in the chat here, Dan, cost barrier to entry for home mining is a bit ouchy. Is it? I don't know. Like, can you answer that? Is that a?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely can be. You know, I think a lot of people can look at it and say, wow, you know, $8,500 for a new gen miner, like I can't afford that. And yeah, maybe you can't afford like one lump sum amount. I'm not going to say that isn't like a life-changing amount of money for a lot of people, because it is. But I would say, you know, that you don't have to spend that much. Like you can start with an S9. And I think there's a lot of advantages to starting with a smaller miner like an S9. One being that it's a low cost barrier to entry. Like you don't have to put a lot of money up. You can get an S9 for $500 to $600. And then like that machine is going to give you like your basic understanding of ASIC technology. So you're going to have a way better grasp on how to deal with noise, how to deal with heat. You're going to learn a lot about electrical, how to hook it up to your pool. And so if you can learn those basic skills in like a really low risk investment, like a $500 S9, then when you're ready and you've saved up some money, like then maybe you can upgrade to a new generation miner if you think that that move makes sense for you. And, you know, the other thing I would say is like, you can buy miners with Bitcoin. So like, let's say you have $8,500 worth of Bitcoin. Well, you know, what you think about what your plans are with that Bitcoin for the next 2 years? Are you just going to leave it in cold storage? And if the answer is yes, then, maybe you want to think about putting that Bitcoin to work, buying an ASIC with it, earning that Bitcoin back over that 2-year time frame, and then taking those Bitcoin rewards, putting them back in cold storage. And then you've got a machine that's going to continue running, and you'll be continuing to stack non-KYC Bitcoin on top of it. So, I think it just depends how you want to approach that and, what your economic landscape looks like. But I wouldn't let the price necessarily just scare you off. I think it's definitely worth like digging into and figuring that out for yourself.
That's awesome. Chris or Neil, have you guys dabbled in mining ever? Do you know people that mine? Like what's your level of experience there?
Yeah. I'll let Neil go first. Go ahead.
No, I personally haven't mined myself. It's hard for me, especially new people coming into Bitcoin. They all hear mining and they think I have my own personal money printer. And like, it's hard to really suggest to anyone new, like spend thousands of dollars on a miner and instead of just buying Bitcoin. Because we know like most people who get into mining over the long run, so many of them have said, I wish I just bought Bitcoin instead. Not everyone, but most. So it's hard. I think the killer advantage of it is the no KYC Bitcoin. That's really, other than that, like I would rather just buy Bitcoin personally, but definitely just to know how it works, I should probably, like, from a very technical perspective, I'm doing myself a disservice by myself not doing it for so long.
To do the S9 approach then, I guess.
Yeah. What do those run like these days?
I think you were saying what, $500, $600?
Yeah, like $500 or $600. Yeah.
All right. Maybe I'll mess around.
Yeah. Chris, you were gonna say.
Yeah, no, definitely kind of a blind spot for me. Before I joined Bitcoin Magazine, I do have a better understanding of the energy sector. I was a waste to energy engineer for 4 years prior to joining Bitcoin Magazine. One of the last projects I was working on there was actually trying to get them set up with miners at one of our facilities. We are an energy producer. We have really cheap electricity, but it definitely helped open my eyes. So we are a waste energy facility in the United States, and Europe was the company that I work for. And some of the prices would make your jaw drop in terms of kilowatt hours. Like we were getting, one of our plants was 1.5 cent per kilowatt hour. And I was like, guys, we need to start mining like yesterday. And then like when I started digging into the numbers, you kind of, your eyes, you get pulled back behind the curtain and you see the man behind the curtain. Those numbers were based on subsidies from the government. So we weren't allowed to mine for Bitcoin because that was reserved for people in municipalities. So really it was closer to like 6 to 8 to 9 cent per kilowatt hours, which is more understandable and reasonable. But we did have a couple of facilities that were in the sub 4 cent kilowatt hour region that we were able to mine, and we weren't going to be penalized by like not hitting our government contracts. But I think mining's awesome. You're getting, like Econoalchemist said better than I, but you're getting non-KYC sats. You're using your sats that were in cold storage or dollars if you have them for that lump sum. And then you're trying to be entrepreneurial. You're trying to reduce noise. You're trying to use excess heat to heat water heaters, or, for meat, for curing meat or anything like that. And like just some of the things that I see on Twitter, like the immersion miners or people using hot water heaters and they're running the water back into the tank to preheat them. I mean, it's incredible. Being an engineer myself as a degree and, my previous life, it's really kind of cool to see the two combine, but definitely a weak spot for me. There's one guy at my meetup that actually mines Bitcoin. He has a bunch of miners and he loves I hate saying this, he loves when people give him fiat just to pay the bills. He's like, I hate this, but like I need it to pay. They don't accept Bitcoin yet for sats yet for my electric bill, but he's like, I do kind of need them unless I want to sell Bitcoin. So he's like, it's an alternative to selling Bitcoin. To do it, he'd rather just sell it to people at the meetup, and we give him cash to do so.
Awesome. I'm gonna pull one other question here from the funny story. This is my buddy. He happens to be in town right now from out of town, and he's staying at my house. So I don't know if he's in the house right now or if he's out for the day, but he might be in my basement watching. Anyways, Dave wanted to know in regards to linking up to a mining pool, and he's asking like, is that KYC in any way? So maybe Econo, maybe you can answer like what information is involved in linking up to a mining pool.
Yeah, so the short answer here is no, it's not KYC. So KYC is like a very specific process enforced by regulations that money transmitters, exchanges, and brokers have to comply with. Mining pools do not have the obligation of complying with KYC AML regulations. So no, you're not required to KYC yourself with pools. I guess I should say that like as like a small individual home miner, like if you're going with like Foundry and you're like, you know, at a bigger scale, yeah, that's a different ballgame. But just to clarify, I'm speaking about like an individual with an S9 who links up to Slush Pool or F2 Pool. You're not going to have to provide KYC information. So they might require an email address. If that's the case, I recommend using a burner email address. And, you know, there's a couple different things you want to think about at this point, because you're making a network connection to that pool and you're receiving on-chain sats from that pool. So if you think about like every contact leaves a trace and you're concerned about privacy and you're concerned about any of these potential or these traces potentially linking you to something you don't want to be linked to, there's precautions that you can take to safeguard yourself. So on the network side of it, I recommend mining with a VPN, and I wrote a guide you can find on my website, Econoalchemist.com. It's also published on Bitcoin Magazine's website, so you can find it on there. But it's about home mining with a VPN, and that's going to provide you a safeguard from your ISP seeing where your traffic is going. And it's going to prevent the mining pool from seeing your IP address. And then, you know, on the on-chain side of it, I recommend whirlpooling your mining rewards to break those deterministic links like we talked about earlier. And then you gain that forward-looking anonymity. And so I can spend my mining rewards to BTC sessions, and he's not going to know that I'm mining Bitcoin. Or I can prevent Slush Pool from knowing that I'm spending money with BTC sessions, for example.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I've got lots to learn. I've got my work cut out for me. You'll probably be getting a few DMs multiple times as I, you know, kind of putz my way through it.
That's what I'm here for, man. Hit
awesome.
me up.
I'm going to give you one last question before we do a rotation here. If I'm looking to get hardware, what are some of the routes I can go to get my hands on an ASIC?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Upstream Data has a web store and they're selling ASICs there. You know, full disclosure, I am affiliated with them.
Steve lives like 10 minutes from me, so maybe I should be kicking.
Yeah, dude, you could just drive over there and pick one up from him, I'm sure. And they take Bitcoin too, so you don't have to link the purchase of that hardware to like a legacy system transaction. So yeah, I mean, Upstream Data, Mine Farm Buy, Kaboom Racks, Blockware Solutions. There's a lot of good vendors out there, and there's a Telegram channel called Hardware Market Verified Listings, where all the vendors in there have given the channel admin their personal information. So there is like a layer of accountability for the people that are allowed to post ads in there. That's not like 100% guarantee against scammers, but that's a good place to look and start seeing what some prices are. And, you know, I've met Kaboom Racks. I've personally worked with Blockware Solutions, Mine Farm Buy, and Upstream Data myself. So like I can say with 100% confidence that all of those dudes are legit and they'll take care of you.
Awesome. I think Steve might be getting a phone call tonight. We'll see. But yeah, that's definitely a blind spot for me, and I guess I'm just going to be diving into that. Got to get one of those black boxes too. We'll see how that goes. Awesome. All right. Well, let's round out that conversation and let's do a rotation again. Everybody in the chat, keep them coming. By the way, Econo, a friend of mine who actually came down to the conference, he actually won a trip down through Shakepay. They paid for his tickets and flights and accommodation and all of it with him and a friend. But he said that he started home mining based on your guides. So you've been
That's awesome.
planting orange pills everywhere. So kudos.
Hell yeah. Great.
Awesome.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. All right. Well, let's rotate then. Chris, you are up. What has you feeling bullish this week, man? Take us on a journey.
Yeah, so I'm going to selfishly say the Bitcoin 2022 conference. I know we're a couple weeks out from it now. Yeah, I mean, all in all, I didn't get to go to Bitcoin 2021. I had my buddy's wedding that weekend, but I remember seeing the Jack Mallers announcement and like getting teared up, celebrating, drinking at the wedding, and being pumped up watching it virtually. But being able to be at Bitcoin Magazine and help host it, I've had nothing but kind things to say. There is a lot to improve for 2023, and us as a team are debriefing and talking about that now. But it's just so great hanging out with Bitcoiners. I got to meet Neil in person. I got to meet Ben in person. Econoalchemist, I don't think I got to meet you, but there was a bunch of people I didn't get to meet that were there. It's just hard to meet everyone when there's 25,000 people. But yeah, just seeing a lot of the projects like Seed Signer, like I mentioned earlier. Keith Mukai, I have a lot of respect for. He's kind of a developer for Seed Signer. I was looking forward to the Impervious browser. I know the launch of that was pushed back a little bit, but just being around Bitcoiners, and Ben, I think you've mentioned this once before, like being around people that have we have the same base level of like understanding and truth in the basis of Bitcoin, that even if you differ ideologically, politically, religion, race, whatever, like as long as you all believe in that core belief, you can get along with anyone. I think it's, not to say there's not debates in the space, there's plenty, but I think it's because we care so much. And, like I said, it was just so great hanging out with Bitcoiners, being surrounded by people like I truly say I love and care for. And, we're fighting together against the central banks and all the people that are trying to harm us and everyone else.
Neil, I'm gonna toss it to you, and I'm gonna ask you like what some of your favorite parts of being down there were. What were some of the things that you got to go and be a part of and see? I don't know. What did you take away from Bitcoin 2022?
Yeah, so I thought it was very well done. It's become like quite the huge production. Sorry, something went off on my computer just now. I kind of, even from last year, 12,000 felt like small compared to this, even though 12,000 was a lot. And it made me kind of appreciate the smaller conferences more. I was just at Unconfiscatable last March, and not to like shit on the conference. I'm super bullish how many people came, 25,000 people, when the price is kind of like, chopping along at 40,000. People call it a bear market, whatever they want to say. To have that many people show up is incredible. Yeah, mostly I'm more there for the connections, the networking, than like, I listen to one speaker for like 30 seconds. Like I'm there to like hang out and talk with other Bitcoiners, but never actually about Bitcoin. That's what I find the most when I'm at Bitcoin conferences. We never talk about Bitcoin, because what more can we talk about when it comes to Bitcoin between us? I mean, we can, but you know what I'm saying. It ends up being other conversations, and it's just great.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a hell of a time for sure. I did get to some of the talks. The ones that, so I of course I moderated a talk on soft forks with Jeremy Rubin and with Paul Stork and Jimmy Song. So that was fun, and I had to try and expertly ask questions that made it seem like I fully understood what was just said in the prior question. So I heard on Clubhouse earlier today that I managed to fool people into believing that. So I guess I did an okay job there, but I did catch some of the stuff. I'm so glad that the open source stage existed. And just in saying that, it was impressive to me that there were so many stages going simultaneously with so much different content. So like the app was a godsend, because you could literally just go through what was going on, and every time you see a talk that you like, you just tap it, it gets added to your schedule for the whole weekend, and you could just follow wherever you need to go. I mean, granted, I kind of sucked at doing that. I tried to catch as much as I can. I did get to see a home mining panel, which was really cool. I got to see the one that was moderated by Foss, which I think you should probably just make Foss the moderator for every talk, because dude was so hyped up. He didn't sit down the entire time. The rest of the panel sat in their chairs and he paced around. And then I like how he started it, because he had a Canadian flag like upside down, holding it by the flagpole with like whatever the piece of wood at the end was. And he's like, all right, listen up. If anybody starts talking about shit coins, I'm going to come along and I'm going to give you a love tap. And he's saying this to a panel of billionaires. So I think we need some more Foss energy as a moderator. And yeah, I mean, I watched Samson Mao's announcement. I watched Jack Maller's announcement. And I did get to some other talks. But again, like the social aspect of it, it's like a family reunion going to these things, right? Like you just see all of these people that are like-minded and sharing a lot of the same values. And you just, maybe that's part of it, Neil, why you don't necessarily need to be talking about Bitcoin, is because you kind of already understand each other on that level, unless there's like a new piece of information that you're kind of discussing back and forth. You kind of already know what's up. And so you just like mesh on other exterior topics to that. But I will say it was an awesome experience. And I don't know, I was super glad I got to come down, and that news desk was fucking great. I really enjoyed being on that. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I don't know. I'll toss to you, Econo. What were your experiences down there like?
I really didn't know what to expect. That was my first Bitcoin conference that I'd ever been to. I had done like a couple of local meetups. But, I was, like Neil's saying, the social aspect, like meeting some of these people that I've spent so much time with online, interacting with, only knowing them by their avatar, and then like getting to meet them face to face for the first time. That was just like the highlight for me, was just meeting some of these people. I met Ronan Miner, Hodl Tarantula. I met JP Sears, Nick Szabo. I shook his hand. I met NVK, Alex Gladstein, Giacomo. Dude, like the list just goes on and on and on, and I was hanging out with Odell and Coin Heated and John Stephanopoulos and Diverter No KYC for the home mining panel. Dude, it was just amazing being able to chill out and bro down with those dudes and like just shoot the shit. That's what it was all about for me. As far as like the talks go, I really didn't see that many talks, but I did spend a good amount of time after the conference catching up on YouTube, because there was a lot going on that I did have a genuine interest in, but just for whatever reason couldn't make it. I also had my family with me and my wife and our two little kids. So that was, taking up some of my bandwidth. And, but yeah, dude, it was just great to get down there and see everybody.
That's you can reserve a good chunk of the flight home for that stuff too, right? Like if you're missing,
right.
I made note of the talks that I was like, fuck, I wish I would, like the meme warfare one. I was like, so I downloaded a bunch of them and just like saved them on my phone and on my laptop and just watched them on my flights home, just to make sure I felt like I got all of the socials and I got the talks. But it is really cool getting in the room to see the talks. But I mean, even just like the floor there, I really enjoyed the art gallery too. That was really cool. The bazaar was, there's some eclectic stuff in there, but there's also some really good Bitcoin stuff too. The book signings were awesome. So many people with good books. I'm very upset that I didn't catch a copy of Tomer's coffee table book, but I'll have to reach out to him and get him to send me one. But yeah, I got a ton of reading material from there, and yeah, just
dude,
so
yeah, that expo hall was like overwhelming. There was so much to look at in there, and like Upstream Data had the black box with 2 S9s running in it, so it was just really cool to be able to see that, like to see people being able to see that in person for the first time. I've got one, so I've seen it, but seeing other people's reaction when like it's totally quiet and then they open the lid and they can hear them, and just getting that noise difference. And then the slush pool dudes were at their booth and I got to meet them, and Ronin Dojo had their booth, and Ben, that's where I met you.
Yeah, I was picking mine up. It's humming behind me right now.
Awesome. Yeah, dude, it was just great, you know. And What's Miner had their like hydro version of a miner that they announced, and that was on display in one of the booths too. So just being able to see that stuff and meet those people and get your hands on it just makes it really tangible and fun. And I don't know, just that was a great experience for those aspects to me.
Yeah, yeah. That exhibition hall was insane. Like I went on the industry day, and I just that was what I did. I was like, okay, I'm gonna, and I stupidly came thinking like, okay, I've got a few things to like external events to go to today, so I'll hit this thing for 3 hours in the morning and I'll be good. I was like, Jesus Christ. So I came back in the afternoon for another couple hours to like hit some of the things I missed. Still didn't get to everything. But like a day dedicated to just the exhibition hall would be good. I'm going to give two notes for next year for Bitcoin. I'm going to pitch them to you right now, Chris.
All right.
One is if there's another musical festival thing going on, make it so that all of the exhibition hall people, like all of the booths and everything, stay open for that. Like there were some that were open, but it would be good if the entire thing was still buzzing, because like there's an entire host of new people that walk through that door, and I think a lot of the people who had booths didn't realize that there'd still be people around that could be interested in that stuff, and you could probably funnel a fair amount of people into that. So yeah, having that available during the Sound Money Fest would be awesome. And then I have a special request that you go back to the silky soft t-shirts that you had from 21 and 19, because they were very comfy those years. I wasn't quite as silky smooth this year.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely make note of that. I think there was kind of a miscommunication. Well, there's two things. It was kind of a miscommunication that the expo hall was going to be open, but we were really tight on security the entire week. And I know with the music festival, they were worried about people, using particular recreational activities and things getting out of hand there. So I think it was kind of an idea to like, let's not go full into the exhibition hall, but definitely something noted to do. As for the silky shirts, I'll talk to the guys in the store and we'll get the old brand. We might have to bump up the prices maybe a little bit, a few bucks here or there, or a couple sats here and there to do so, but definitely noted.
I mean, it's worth it. I'd rather have the, I have the low time preference. I'd rather buy a shirt that I'm going to wear for like 10 years that's still going to feel good than buy a shirt that I'm going to wash a couple times and be upset about. So
sure. The lower time preference shirts for sure. I appreciate all the feedback from all you guys. Like I said, I'm on the video team and we've been slaving away these last 2 weeks to get out all the panels. I know there was kind of a mishap that happened this week in terms of accidentally like there were strikes against people's YouTube accounts. If it makes you feel any better, I run the amateur investors account and I work for the company and I got a strike. So we are working to rectify it. It's kind of a thing that swept across all of it. I'm like, guys, I work for the company and I got a strike. So like, promise me we will rectify this. It will not go against your YouTube accounts. I apologize for the mix up for all of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking quick action to rectify that and, owning the mistake and, moving on. Shit happens. And sorry, I don't know if I should cuss on here or not.
But you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, I saw your comment of Econoalchemist, so I was like, oh man, I'm going to be on here and he's going to roast me for it. I didn't put it out. I'm not going to throw my coworker under the bus. It was kind of an algorithmic issue. So we are working to rectify that as soon as possible. We were kind of working all yesterday and today, and it will be fixed. I promise. Anyone that we've given contact to or worked with in the past, your accounts will not be doxxed. We were just trying to stop all of the fake accounts of ours and or other accounts that are just trying to make it look like us and reuse our content and scam people. So I apologize. It was kind of a dragnet thing.
No worries, dude. I figured it was something like that. I'm just glad you didn't like double down and say, no, we own the rights to that video.
Yeah, we're working to fix it. I am sorry.
Oh, good. Awesome. All right. Well, let's do our last rotation here. And again, everybody in the comments, thank you for being here. Shout out to Kit. Really nice to meet you down there too. Kit from Bitcoin Magazine. She's in the chat there as well. But yeah, let's jump to Neil. Dude, what are you bullish about? What has you excited? Take away.
Okay, so it's going to sound bearish, but it is bullish, and I'll get there why. So the title, I read an article earlier in the week, Bitcoin tribalism is holding the crypto industry back, Ripple CEO says. And he went on to say that Bitcoin maximalism has meant that the crypto industry has fractured representation in Washington, D.C. So which I say, this is great. We've been wanting to draw a line in the sand between Bitcoin and all the other crap that's out there. Last August of 2021, when that infrastructure bill came in and it had all that crypto language, digital asset, whatever language in it, as a Bitcoiner, I felt underrepresented in my own country. I didn't feel like Bitcoin was being fought for. You had organizations like Coin Center, but they're not really Bitcoin focused. So out of that came things like Sat Center, the BTC Inc., right? The BTC Policy Institute, the Bitcoin Today Coalition, I think it's called. So you have like representation now for Bitcoiners. I'm totally for it. I know there's some Bitcoiners who are like, oh, we shouldn't get involved in any of this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But I like to repeat something that Bitcoin Tina once said to me. And he said, Bitcoin may be anti-fragile, but Bitcoiners aren't anti-fragile. So you want the path of least resistance. And if we could have people who closely align with us fighting on our behalf, like I'm all for it. And I'm happy that these Ripple people are upset. I mean, we saw like Chris Larson a month ago. He's trying to like buy off the ESG people and Greenpeace to come after Bitcoin. This is great. This is fantastic.
I do love the differentiation like that. What was the quote there? That Bitcoin maximalism has caused crypto
fracture. He said, Garlinghouse said such maximalism has meant the crypto industry has fractured representation when it comes to lobbying U.S. lawmakers.
Yes, that's correct. I'm pretty sure that was.
Yeah, I mean, everything in DC right now is relatively positive for Bitcoiners, in my opinion. From Gary Gensler being the SEC chair, he knows Bitcoin better than a lot of Bitcoiners know Bitcoin. So I think the whole government banning Bitcoin in the U.S. Is a FUD narrative that really just doesn't have much legs. But we saw what just happened in Canada. We see what happens in other countries. Things could turn very quickly with different administrations coming in. So it's important to practice, go by best practices no matter how good times are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is some merit for, you're talking about all these groups getting together and trying to influence legislation and everything. And I mean, I myself, and I'm sure many Bitcoiners have been super disillusioned by politics and politicians over the past number of years. I mean, that's a no-brainer, obviously. That said, like I am so here in Canada, I'm cautiously optimistic with somebody like Pierre Poilievre running to, one, be the leader of his party, but two, then in line to be running for prime minister if that ends up being the case. And earlier on there was kind of some more of those like blanket buzzword statements like blockchain capital of the world, crypto, all that kind of stuff. But he seems to be refining that quite a bit to specify Bitcoin. Like there's somebody asking him about crypto banking and everything, and he's specified like, I support Bitcoin. And I think that's because he some of the people who have his ear are people like Greg Foss and Jeff Booth, and there's a ton of there's a ton of great Canadian Bitcoiners that I know are actively mobilizing, trying to kind of help not only like gain support for him, but also ensure that he understands what is going on there. He seems to have a clear understanding of like sound money, and that you can't just like paper your way out of economic problems. It's just ensuring that he also has a clear understanding of the fact that Bitcoin is entirely different from the heaps of trash out there. So, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic about that. I feel like in terms of Canada, given how quickly things went right down the shitter this year, I feel like that's kind of like a final hurrah to like see if we can start to move that pendulum back the other way. And I think this is kind of like a big last push for a number of people. But I've met a lot of Bitcoiners that have just got the hell out of Dodge, like in the past, even like 4 months here. I was in Costa Rica. I met 2 different people that packed up their entire families and moved down to Costa Rica. Francis has been there for a long time. As soon as shit got crazy here, there's another Bitcoin mechanic who works with Start9. He was in on the West Coast, and then he got the hell out of there, and now he's down in Mexico, I think. There's been a lot of people that have basically taken off. So, and I mean, Bitcoiners are all about that plan B, right? Just having that, well, you know, if shit goes sideways, then I gotta have a you know, for the first time in my life, I've now begun. I had never entertained the idea of living in another place, and now I'm kind of actively pursuing a second passport, which I think is important to have, regardless of kind of how things go. But yeah, you're right. Like it is bullish that people are mobilizing and trying to hedge for when the game doesn't go in their favor, but also actively trying to shift the game in their favor. If you take both approaches, then at least you've got 2 potential good outcomes. But if you take one, then you've only got the hedge, right? So
yeah, when you're trying to separate, yeah, it's kind of antithetical, because Bitcoin, you're separating money from state, and yet we're saying we need to, you know, influence the state or advocate for Bitcoin on behalf of ourselves against the state, or for, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, but if we could at least stop them from infringing upon us, that's something. It doesn't necessarily mean like we're asking for permission, but just like stopping them from like messing with our good thing over here. Like, why not do it?
well, and there's an element of that Trojan horse aspect of it. Like, really what you need favorable legislation that gives a lot of freedom, that makes it super easy for everybody to get into Bitcoin for a period of time, to the point where if negative legislation then comes out later, it's already too late. Like for instance, like look at El Salvador. If enough time passes where basically everybody in El Salvador is eventually, or the vast majority of them, are using Bitcoin in some capacity, it won't matter what legislation comes out later. It's too late at that point. Everybody's using it. Everybody has a wallet. Everybody's, you know, dealing peer to peer, or hopefully using, at least holding their own keys down the road. It becomes that you pushed it past a point of no return. And so I think that's kind of the impetus here, is trying to get some of that favorable legislation and get regular day-to-day people to understand things that we've been discussing here, how holding your own keys, you know, doing things that help your own privacy, perhaps mining your own coins, all of these types of things, so that when the time comes where shit hits the fan and you need to have all of those things, they're already in place, and it becomes a lot more resistant to that tyranny of the state.
Yeah, I think we've kind of like in the US past that point of no return. Like, it might not seem that way, and I'm not saying like don't keep fighting. But look, we have Janet Yellen like a week or so ago, like say how like she admired Satoshi's invention. I'm paraphrasing. It's like, wait, what? Did everyone else think that was a deep fake? Because I did. I didn't think it was real.
thought it was a I love Bitcoin, buy my shitcoin pitch.
Yeah, it was
That's
crazy. And like I said, SEC chair, Bitcoin, senators, Bitcoin. I think, you know, maybe 5-10 years from now, we'll look back on this time and say, oh yeah, it was kind of obvious that like Bitcoin had reached its like escape velocity. So not in terms of price, but in terms of not being able to be held back. But I guess we'll see.
I watched that video a few times and I literally thought it was a deep fake. Like the first 2 times I watched it, I was like, this isn't real. Like someone, I thought yellow, shout out to you. I thought you like made that or something like that. And I was like, oh, or Brecky or someone like that. But I'll kick it over to Econoalchemist now.
That's the one where she was like paraphrasing the white paper, right? Yeah, I totally thought that was a deep fake. I had no idea that was real. But yeah, you know, I think it is good to have Bitcoin distinguished from the other cryptocurrencies. You know, from the mining perspective, I do kind of foresee that as like them trying to, especially like the proof of stake guys, like with Ripple, like trying to segregate Bitcoin from everyone else so they can kind of get more of an attack surface around it, so that they can say, look, it's proof of work mining. I feel like that's why they're trying to distinguish it. Like that's totally different than everything else that we're doing. And so, you know, when it comes down to regulations, I guess my biggest concern is that like some regulation gets passed that makes what I'm doing today that's perfectly legal, like tomorrow makes it illegal, you know? So I'm just very cautious about like shoehorning any sort of like legacy system regulations into the Bitcoin space. I would hate to see some sort of like ESG requirement come down that like makes miners have to have licenses in the states that they operate in and say like, you can't operate a miner at home unless you're licensed and you have to comply with these federal regulations and your machines have to be so efficient. And if they're not up to this Energy Star standard, you have to replace your inventory. Like, I just think the more those regulations get their claws into a free market, the more it like disrupts the natural free market economics that make, especially Bitcoin mining, such a vibrant marketplace.
Absolutely. What, do you see a world in which, you know, something like that happens? What happens to home mining? Does it just like, does it continue to exist? Like, or does a black market get created where people are just like low key running, you know, a few S19s in a black box somewhere?
Yeah, I think we see like a black market split. You know, if, you know, just look at like China, for example. The government of China said no more mining within the borders of China, and they like meant it this time and people responded. But it came out after the fact that as much as 20% of the overall network hash rate was still going on within the borders of China. So these were illegal miners, you know? And I just think that that's going to happen everywhere. You know, certainly if the laws changed overnight in the United States, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to unplug my miners. I will continue running them. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to be classified as a criminal because of that, you know, like, so call me a criminal and I'll deal with the consequences when they come up, but I'm not going to let those laws deter me from engaging in something that's perfectly legal today, because I know that's right. And just because a law comes out that says I have to have a license to do it now, like that doesn't change the fact that it's right. You know, I'm running code, I'm running a computer. I'm just hashing. I'm not going to stop doing that. Yeah. So I guess, you know, maybe I'm just like a little bit more open to accepting those risks when it comes down to it. But yeah, I would operate in a black market, and I think a lot of other people would too. I kind of equate it to like cocaine, for example. Like that's illegal in almost every country on earth, yet it's still a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. So I think Bitcoin mining will continue.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'll be pretty resilient. You know, this is why I want to dive into it now, so that I'm prepared if there's ever shit legislation like that, so I can just, you know, I wonder then what kind of underground. I wonder how much that black box is going to cost me at that point. It'll be a premium, I'm sure. So let's get it while it's cheap, I suppose. Awesome. Well, gents, I think the time has come to maybe do a quick round of final thoughts here. Anything that you want to, any of your final thoughts for the day, anything that you want to mention, point people to, and maybe I'll give you a little challenge of, if you want to recommend a piece of content that you've found useful in your Bitcoin journey, whatever that may be, whether it be a book or an article or a video or something like that. If there's something that you found particularly useful, then let people know. In terms of my final thoughts, I really enjoy this conversation. It kind of ran the gamut of just about everything, from the politics of it to the social aspect of it to the technical and the resilience of Bitcoin. So yeah, really enjoyed it all. I don't think I have any major points to make at the end. I'll use this opportunity to shill the fact that I'm going to be in Kelowna and Vancouver in July doing workshops. I'm doing some beginner ones, which probably wouldn't apply to most people watching here unless you're like brand new to Bitcoin, just on the basics of self-custody, which is like a 3-hour morning workshop. But then the afternoon one, I'm doing from 1 to 5 p.m. a deep dive on cold card, just like every facet of how to use your cold card, partially signed Bitcoin transactions, basically go from 0 to hero in an afternoon. So that's kind of the goal there. I'll be in Kelowna on July 9th. I just booked the space, and I will be dropping that on my Twitter and my website tomorrow, maybe Monday, I guess. And then Vancouver, figuring out the venue, but that will be July 16th. So anyways, that's my riff. I will toss it to Econo. Final thoughts, anything you want to point people towards, let her rip.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. This has been a blast. I'm very honored to have been invited to participate. And, for everyone listening, if you're at all interested in learning about mining, I've got some great resources on my website, Econoalchemist.com. I've also published some technical guides for upstream data, and you can find a couple of those on Upstream Data's website, which is upstreamdata.ca. And I've also got a GitHub repository, so you can go to econoalchemist.github.io, and I've got some stuff in there that I don't have on my website. But there's a ton of material to learn about mining. And, if you're at all on the fence about it, just be open-minded about it and learn about it, and feel free to reach out anytime and ask questions. And, as far as content that I would point people to, just in general, self-custody, self-hosted, open source, take control over your own keys, non-KYC acquisition or procurement of Bitcoin, I would point everybody to Bitcoin Q&A. His Twitter handle is BitcoinQ_A. The dude's got a website called bitcoiner.guide, and it's just packed full of awesome resources that span everything, like how to buy non-KYC Bitcoin to how to set up your wallet. I mean, the dude's just a powerhouse. So I definitely recommend people check that out.
Awesome. I just typed all of those things into the chat so people can find them there. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on, man. Let's do a quick rotate to Chris. Any final thoughts? Anything that you want to recommend for anybody?
Yeah, Ben, thank you once again for having us on. It was a pleasure to meet you in person. Neil, thank you for having me over for the pleb party down in Miami. That was a blast, meeting all the plebs and hanging out and drinking in the late after hours post-conference one of the days. It was a pleasure talking to you, Econoalchemist. In terms of things for people coming into the space, Preston Pish, I really respect because he kind of comes from the legacy financial. I got to thank him in person down in Miami, saying he really orange-pilled me. I was kind of more in the legacy route and kind of went orange-pilled. I'd say his episode with Michael Saylor, the mastermind in terms of Bitcoin. I know many people have listened to it already on his podcast. I think it was episode 3 or 5 for the Investors Podcast. I highly recommend you listen to that. Even if you're an advanced Bitcoiner, just Michael Saylor's thoughts on economics and just when he was really getting into Bitcoin are clever. And then Econoalchemist took one of mine, Bitcoin Q&A. His Bitcoiner's Guide gives you all the non-KYC routes, setting up a wallet, setting up multi-sig. I mean, the dude's a beast. He works for, I'll shill his thing real quick, Foundation Devices. I bought one down there, the Passport 2.0. So I haven't used it yet, but it looked really cool. I want to get it in my setup along with my Cold Card and other wallets I have. And then selfishly, I'll shill Bitcoin Magazine. You can get your tickets for Bitcoin 2023. They're out already. You just go to b.tc/conference/2023. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put out all the content there. Apologize for the mishap for everyone with the strikes on YouTube. We are rectifying it. We will fix it. And it's been a pleasure being here, Ben, Neil, and Econoalchemist.
Awesome. Well, dude, thank you very much as well. And it's a hefty list. I need to go through it again, but yeah, highly, again, I'll echo everything that you dropped there. All excellent resources. So definitely check them out. And with that, toss it to Neil. Final thoughts, any recommendations, all yours.
All right, 3 recommendations. And this is not just me sucking up, but BTC Sessions, any noobs watching, watch his YouTube videos. You are very easy for me to just recommend on like Clubhouse in the mornings when we have beginners and I've gotten like annoyed walking through. Oh, BTC Sessions has a video for this. Even if I haven't watched it, I know you definitely have a video for it. So
Yeah,
definitely
probably.
noobs go to that. I really love Bitcoin Tina's talk with CK back in end of 2019. Definitely, it's a 4-part series. Well, it turned into like a 5-part series. But a 4-part series that Tina did with CK at Bitcoin Magazine. Check that out. And then also for people newer to Bitcoin, I feel The Price of Tomorrow with Jeff Booth's book is really good because it's not like heavy Bitcoin, but it really gets you thinking about network effects and exponential technologies, which is, Bitcoin helps fuel Bitcoin. So it gives you a really good perspective, but also relating things not Bitcoin. So yeah. Oh, and again, I'll show my company, FOMO21.com. Buy Bitcoin merch. And Chris, we could hook you guys up with shirts maybe. They're very comfortable. Very comfortable.
We would love to.
Are they?
Yeah.
Sold.
I gotta send you. So I sent you a discount code. I'll send you, Chris and Econo, free codes. You could get like t-shirts off the site for free.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I'll DM you on Twitter.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. No problem.
That's awesome. All right. Well, gentlemen, once again, I will say thank you. This was an awesome conversation. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, I don't know. There's nothing else to say. Thank you all for being on here. And of course, all of you are welcome back anytime.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Thank
All
you.
right. I'm going to drop your audio and video, but I will see you guys again soon, and I'll shoot you guys a DM afterwards. So see you guys later.
Thanks. See ya.
Awesome. All right, everybody watching, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed. Awesome panel. Love those guys. Cool to have them all on at the same time. And yeah, check out those links, those recommendations that they're dropping. An unusually long list of excellent resources that were dropped there. Normally people will give one or maybe one, and now you've got a plethora of things to check out. So I recommend you check out all of them. As for me, thank you all for being here. Of course, really great seeing you guys always on a Friday evening. Best part of my week, always. So yeah, with that, of course, if you haven't already, like, sub, share, all those things, again, really do help. If you want to help in another way, you can hit up the previously mentioned sponsors down below. Shakepay, LEDN, Bitrefill, Keystone, BillFodl, they're all down there. And if you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin tip either on Twitter or at my Strike page, strike.me/BTC sessions. When you go there, you can type in anything you like. And when you hit the tip button, you'll be greeted with a Lightning invoice, or if you tap to the right, a regular Bitcoin QR code. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening, wherever you may be. See you guys next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.